Hey everybody, it's Julie. Thanks for joining me today for a Bible journaling process video using the new Clothed in Humility kit from Creative Retreat Kits. This is the Faith Art Box, and I'll be using some of the Faithfilled digitals as well. I do have a full unboxing video on my channel, and I will have my video linked in the description box and in that playlist. So this devotional is called Clothed in Humility. It was written by Danielle Wiggum. And today I'm going to be journaling from Colossians 3. Now, one of the key verses is 3 verse 12, but the entire passage, Colossians 3 verses 1 through 17, is really key as we look at this concept of putting on Christ's character. So I'm going to go ahead and put you on fast forward and we'll see how this project turns out. Okay, so I have taken the backing of the devotional and printed that off from the digital. Now you could also just copy it. Printed it on paper, and I'm going to use this for a few different elements. First, I'm going to use it here for my tab punch, for my tab up at the top of the page. So I punched that out with my We Are Memory Keepers tab punch. Now I'm taking this stencil that is actually an add-on. You can purchase this a la carte, and I'm going to stencil this in the Gargoyle gray. And I'm using my ZIG Two-way Glue Pen because if you let it dry, if you apply the glue and then let it dry, it becomes a temporary adhesion. So I'm going to use that to help me stencil. So I'm setting that aside so it can dry, and now I'm going to take the tag stamp, and I stamped out a bunch of tags. Some of them I did darker, some of them I did second generation, so I didn't clean the stamp or pick up new ink in between. And now I did the stenciling. I used my blending brush, and you can see how that stencil stuck to the page so it didn't move, but it came off when I wanted it to. Now I just cut out the letters that spell clothes, and I cut out all of my elements, the tags, and that clothes hanger that I stenciled, and I'm using my adhesive to stick these down on my tag. So I used, again, the word that says clothes. Now let's talk about this passage. We are here in Colossians 3, and even though I am focusing on a few words, a few verses here, the whole section from 3 to 17 is important. So I'm going to take some embroidery thread here on screen and hang those tags with the thread. I did punch with a 1/8 inch hole punch at the top of the tag. Okay, so let me just read this to you. In verse 8 it starts, "But now put away all the following: anger, wrath, malice, slander, and filthy language from your mouth. Do not lie to one another, since you have put off the old self with its practices and have put on the new self." Then again in verse 12, "Therefore, as God's chosen ones, holy and dearly beloved, put on compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing with one another and forgiving one another." And then if we move on, "Above all, put on love, which is the perfect bond of unity." So what I'm doing here is focusing on that putting off, taking off, and putting on. Take off the old self, take off the old man, and put on the new self, the new man, the new person, which is in Christ. On screen here, I've put my stickers down, and it says the clothes make the woman. This is actually a quote from Mark Twain that says, "Clothes make the man. Naked people have little to no influence on society." The reason why I use that quote, and I'm going to use on my journaling card a couple of other quotes, one from Shakespeare and another one from Twain, is it reminded me of the line in The Prince and the Pauper that says, Doff thy rags and don thy splendors, lad. That's when the prince and the pauper are switching places. And just the fact that they have switched their clothes gives them a new identity. And that's what I was focusing on here, that by putting on the clothes of righteousness, by putting on love, the love of Jesus, then we become a new person. The old self is gone, and the new person, the new woman, is our identity. So I typed up those quotes. Shakespeare said, "Apparel oft proclaims the man." And that's just another way of saying, like Twain did, the clothes make, in this case, the woman. So I've taken some strips of that pretty patterned paper, the gray polka dotted, and I'm going to outline my verse. I'm going to box out that whole section here. So I'm going to use a few different strips, and you can see I did that, and I used that ZIG Two-way Glue Pen to adhere it because it has a fine point. Now I cut out the little piece that says Mark Twain, and I'm putting that at the bottom to attribute that quote to Twain. And now this is the journaling card where I've typed up my quotes. And what I'm going to do with my tip in here with this paper that I have decorated, I'm going to put that in the margin, and I'm going to make it go vertically instead of horizontally. Now I'm going to cut out this label. I'm going to add the date to that, and you can see I added a couple of the hearts, the wonky hearts there to the quote. Now I'm going to take this journaling card, and I decided I'm going to chop it up. I'm going to use that piece for the text reference, and then some of this patterned paper, the floral print, to use kind of like as washi, a faux washi. I'm going to date my stamp my date right here. And you'll notice I mess up my stamping. And so I come in and I fix it by using a white gel pen. I use my white gel pen a lot, kind of like whiteout. It helps to just cover up some of those flubs, and that's what I did. Now on my tag, I'm going to stamp the word clothe that's from this clothes hanger stamp. I'm going to put that on my tab, and I just want to get the part that says clothes. I don't want the whole coat hanger, so I used my Pitt Big Brush marker in black to ink that directly onto the stamp with the marker, and then I stamped it. I do need to go in and fill it in to make it a little bit better, and I'm also adding the letter D, so it says clothed instead of just clothe. I needed to switch to a bigger tip pen. Now I'm going to cut off some of these strips on this pretty pattern paper as well. So I've got two prints going here, the gray polka dotted and then this floral print. Okay, so I'm going to stick that up there. Now I'm using this adhesive, and I'm going to make a pocket on this with this paper. So I left a little bit of it without adhesive, so I could just tuck those journaling cards into that little section, so it becomes a pocket. Now I'm putting up my elements there, and my date's going to go at the bottom. I'm going to end up adding a few other embellishment stickers from the decor sticker sheet, a few more of those paper strips. Put a couple of the wonky hearts on this journaling card, the one that has my quotes on it. Tuck that back in there. You did see that I edged it with the Peachy Peach ink pad by just scraping the edges on the ink pad. And now I'm adding another piece of that patterned paper up to the top. And I'm going to put my bow clip up there. I wanted to have a place to anchor my bow clip, and it provides a little bit of protection as well to the page. Now I'm going to take this sticker that says righteousness, because it is Christ's righteousness that we need to clothe ourselves in. It was really interesting in my word study, the different uses of the words put off or take off. The first time in verse 8, it means to put aside, to lay off, to stow away, or to renounce. And then the second time in verse 9, where it says to put aside, to put off the old self. So the first time it was referring to those negative characteristics and qualities and behaviors. The second time it was talking about putting off the old self. And this time, and I used my highlighters to highlight the different verses and where these words are used. This time, where it's talking about putting off the old self, it means to strip completely off. So the old self, that identity, we need to strip off completely. The old behaviors, then, we will be able to put aside and lay off and renounce when we have that new identity in Christ. And then in verse 12, it says to put, in verse 9, it says to put on the new self, and in verse 12, to put on compassion and kindness, and then love. So when we put on the new identity, then those behaviors become what we are arrayed in. And that's what to put on means, to clothe ourselves, to array ourselves. And here I'm writing some journaling on the back. What was really cool, when we look at the verse, the quote that says, "Doff thy rags and don these splendors, lad." The pauper, when he put on the kingly garb, he had a new identity, and we have that new identity, that royal inheritance, the kingly robes we're wearing. However, those robes are clothes of humility, because Jesus is humble. His character is one of humility. So even though they are kingly robes, they are humble. So on screen here, I lost some footage where I was using this stamp that I'm using right now. I just wanted to show you how I did it. I used that stamp, it's kind of like stitching, all around the edge of my pocket to give it that stitched look. So here are some close-ups of my page. I hope you enjoyed this process. I really enjoyed making it, and then the study. This is just a very powerful passage to put on Christ's righteousness and to clothe ourselves in his righteousness. If you have any comments or questions about this process, then leave them in the comment section. I do have all my products linked in the description box. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.